Take your Bibles and turn to Mark chapter 7. We're going to do the RJ theme. Children, 4th grade and under. We're going to go to Children's Church. The time is now. Step out of the vestibule. Somebody will lead you to the facility. Mark chapter 7. This is a lengthy passage. Beginning in the first verse, and as we stand in honor of the reading of the word of the Lord, we'll read the 23rd. Then came together unto him the Pharisees and certain of the scribes which came from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashed hands, they found fault. For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands oft, eat not, holding to the traditions of the elderly. And when they come from the market, except they wash, they eat not. And many other things there be which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups and pots, brazen vessels, and of tables. Then the Pharisees and scribes asked him, Why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands? And he answered and said unto them, Well hath Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, This people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. For laying aside the commandment of God, you hold the tradition of men, as the washing of pots and cups, and many other such like things you do. And he said unto them, Full well you reject the commandment of God, that you may keep your own tradition. For Moses said, Honor thy father and mother, and whosoever curses father or mother, let him die the death. But you say, If a man shall say to his father or mother, It is Corban, that is to say, a gift, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, he shall be free. And ye suffer him not, or no more, to do aught for his father or his mother, making the word of God of none effect through your tradition, which you have delivered, and many such like things do ye. And when he had called all the people unto him, he said unto them, Hearken every one of you, and understand. There is nothing from without a man that entering into him can defile him, but the things which come out of him, those are they that defile the man. If any man have ears to hear, let him hear. And when he was entered to the house from the people, his disciples asked him concerning the parable. And he saith unto them, Are ye also without understanding? Do you not perceive that whatsoever thing from without entereth into the man, it cannot defile him? Because it entereth not into his heart, but into the belly, and goeth out into the draught, purging all means. And he said, That which cometh out of the man, that defiles the man. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceeds evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile man. Father, your word, may it speak loudly to each one of us, right where we are. Accomplish your perfect will in each of our lives. I pray, Father, that you empty me of myself. Fill me with your Spirit. And grant to me this day, by the anointing of the Spirit, to preach what thus saith the Lord. In Jesus' name. Amen. You can see the Pharisee often dogged the Lord Jesus Christ because of their different philosophies concerning redemption. The Pharisee held to a religion about God. Jesus to a relationship with God. The Pharisees focused on what they could do for God, while Jesus preached about what God could do for them. The Pharisees presented themselves to the nation as the model redemption. But Jesus will later say, the publicans and the prostitutes will get into heaven ahead of them. In Matthew 23, Jesus called the religious right vipers and hypocrites, the blind leading the blind, resulting in both falling over the eternal cliffs into the caverns of hell. What they believed about religion and the hazards they presented, or what they preached, should challenge us to understand the dangers associated with religiosity, lest we find ourselves confused, or worse, condemned. First, consider with me this morning that religiosity often promotes criticism. They came together unto him, the Pharisees, and certain the scribes, the religious leaders, if you wish, the religious right of that day. The fact that they came from Jerusalem meant that they were among the elite of the Pharisees. And when they saw some of his disciples, the disciples of the Lord Jesus, what were they doing? They were eating bread. But here's what is so important. They were eating bread that had been purchased in the market, but they had failed, and oftentimes purchased from Gentile markets, and they had failed to wash their hands. And so here's what happens. They found fault. That's the criticism. For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they washed their hands often. Eat not, holding to the traditions of the elders. Emphasis, not the word of God, but the word of man. And when they come to the market, except they wash, they eat not. And many other things there be which they have received to hold, such as washing cups, pots, and brazen vessels, and tables. Then the Pharisees and the scribes ask him, why do your disciples not keep the traditions of the elders, but choose to eat with unwashed hands? But back to the phrase, they found fault. You see, the danger of believing in a system or standard of salvation is setting yourself as the measurement. For the Pharisees, the heart of the problem was that they saw themselves as the standard of salvation. They were self-appointed standards. Consider with me this morning that best illustrates this truth. One of the parables that Jesus gave in the Gospel of Luke, we call it the parable of the Pharisee and the publican. The two came together at the same time to the temple to pray. And the Pharisee stood with his hands stretched out to heaven. And he touted all of his accomplishments, all that he was, all that he had done. His personal self-righteousness, while at the same time taking note of the sinner, the publican that was close by. And here's the criticism. And I thank you, Lord, that I'm not like that old publican and that sinner right over there. And you know what? The publican began to pray. And by the way, the Bible said he would not look to heaven. He smote himself because he understood how unworthy he was to approach holy God. And what he said was, Lord, be merciful to me, a sinner. And here's what Jesus said to the disciples. Not the Pharisee, but the publican is righteous before God. Oh, by the way, that attitude still prevails among believers today. God grant that we would be more like the publicans and understand our total unworthiness. God grant to us that we be like the publican and realize what a privilege it is to be in a relationship with God, that it is not anything that we do, it is not who we are, it is all about Him. And to understand, no matter how good you may think you are not the standard by which we judge. In fact, if you want to find the standard, His name is Jesus.
Amen.
The great lesson from this story is echoed in the words of the Apostle Paul, who said, "Don't think more highly of yourselves than you should." Religiosity often promotes criticism of others. It also promotes what I call a contradiction. Jesus, hearing their complaint, their criticism, answers and says, "Well has Isaiah prophesied." Isaiah chapter 23, I believe, verse 19. "Of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honors me with their lips, but what? Their hearts are far from me." The Pharisees, according to Jesus' application of Isaiah's prophecy, were living lies. Sure, they could be heard in the synagogue or on the streets praying, but it was all a pretense. Yes, they dressed in their long flowing robes of religion, drawing attention to themselves, but Jesus likens them to whited sepulchres, whitewashed on the outside, but full of death on the inside. Now, I guess if I were to grab a modern day description, they were like Sunday saints. Live like Christians on Sunday, but the rest of the week they live like the devil. Now maybe we ought to hit the brakes right here for a moment. I think I need to ask the question. A question that only you can answer. You may be sitting here this morning and you sing about Jesus. You may be sitting here this morning and you pray to Jesus. You may be sitting here this morning and you say, "Jesus, I love you." You may dress up on Sunday and you show up to church, but that's what's on the outside. And that's what I see, and that's what you see. And that's what we see. But the question that I need to ask of every one of us is, what does God see? As the Apostle said, there are many who will profess, but not so many who possess. Religiosity promotes contradiction. You say one thing, you look like one thing, but you're something altogether different. Thirdly, we learn in this story, religiosity promotes a criteria for salvation. But how be it in vain? They do worship me, teaching for doctrine, what? The commandment of men. Laying aside the commandment of God. You hold the traditions of men, as the washing of pots and cups and many other such like things we do. I just stop for a minute and just kind of put a parenthesis right here. Listen, we don't teach as doctrine the Baptist faith message. We don't teach as doctrine what we practice as a Baptist church. We teach as doctrine the Word of the living God, period.
Amen.
Amen. That's free. The Pharisees had a system of do's and don'ts which served as the criteria for their salvation. They believed a right relationship with God was the result of maintaining a particular standard. What I am, what I do, they said, determines my relationship with God. Well, that creates a problem. Paul penned in Galatians chapter 2, verse 20-21. If salvation, justification, comes by the works of the law, then Jesus Christ died a fool's errand. If salvation is accomplished by what I do, who I am, then Jesus' death on the cross was empty and foolish. Now the truth is, there is a standard. It says in Romans chapter 3, verse 23, for all have sinned and come short. If you've got a King James, this isn't the Word of God. Some of your other translations would say, and you've fallen short of the standard that God has set. And so you say, well, wait a minute. There is a standard by which we can be saved? Yes, there is. Other than Jesus Christ? Yes, there is. Now don't get up and run. You know what that standard is? Absolute perfection from the day you were born into this world to the day you die. Guess what? You can't do that. And that's why Jesus Christ came and died on the cross for your sin and for mine. Amen. See the good news of the gospel. For him who knew no sin became sin for us, that we might be made the righteousness of God through him. Next we find in the story of religiosity promotes convenience. And he said to them, full well you reject the commandment of God, that you may keep your own tradition. And then he quotes a commandment of the Old Testament. And they had twisted that commandment around. The commandment was to honor father and mother, to take care of them. But they had twisted that, saying, well, listen, if I go and present an offering to the temple, then once I've presented that offering, I don't have to be responsible anymore for taking care of the financial needs of my mom and my dad. Of course, that's not the Word of God. But that's what they did. They changed the word so that it would be convenient for them. Or in other words, the Pharisees made the law of God relative to their own situation. I spoke with someone not long ago about a moral dilemma. And they argued with me that the Word of God changes with time and must align with culture. I have an Arkansas word for that. It's called baloney. Now, I've told this story before. I don't know if I've ever told it in the pulpit, but it illustrates what I'm saying. When I was working on my bachelor's degree, I would drive from Madison, Arkansas to Memphis, Tennessee. That's a pretty good trip. And that was back in the day when you didn't mind picking up a hitchhiker. I don't do that anymore. So usually, every afternoon, on the way in, I would kind of pick me out a hitchhiker. And I'd pick them up. You know why? They became a captive audience. You know, it's kind of like, get saved, or do I just throw you out of the vehicle? Well, I can still remember very vividly, one afternoon, I crossed over the Memphis, Arkansas Bridge and come through West Memphis. And just as I was coming out of West Memphis, there was a hitchhiker. I just pulled over, he got in. Well, I began to try to strike up a conversation with him. But I noticed he couldn't talk. And he pulled back his collar just a little bit, and he showed me where he had had a surgery on his neck. And by using, I guess you'd call it sign language, I don't know, he kept going. And he was talking about the fact he'd been shot in a war, and he lost his ability to speak. Well, I thought, well, you can't speak, but you can still hear. And so I made up my mind, I was going to try to witness him, but before I could do that, he looked up on my dashboard and he saw my Bible. And so he pointed at the Bible and he indicated he wanted to show me something in the Word of God. I thought, well, this is going to be good. So I just handed him my Bible off the dash, and he opened it right up to the book of Timothy. He was quick. He went right to a verse of Scripture. He flopped that over and he set it in front of me. You know what it said? He said, to take a little wine for your stomach's sake. And he said, you know what he was doing? He was taking the Word of God and making it convenient for his situation. I can laugh at that story, except here's the sad truth, and you better hear what I'm about to tell you. Believers all over our world are taking what thus saith the Lord, and they're trying to make it fit who they are and what they are doing, their own situation. I was talking to somebody this morning, and just a reminder. I want to tell you something. God doesn't change. That's one of the wonderful things about God. He is immutable. He changes not. The same God of Genesis is the same God in Revelation. What God was is what God is, and is what God will always be.
Amen.
And so what he said then is what he is saying now. Now I thank the Lord for grace and mercy, but it hasn't changed anything about God. But I hear it with every passing day, and even among our religious leaders, the church has to change. We've got to change. Things have to change. Why? You want to answer me that question? Why? God does not change. Next, religiosity promotes condemnation. Making the Word of God, what does it say? Of none effect through your traditions, which you have delivered, and many such like things do ye. Here's what Jesus is saying. Religion leaves you empty before God. It's not about your character. Your character's filthy rags. You're a white example. It's not about your conduct. In fact, Paul said, listen, let me tell you all about my life. He gave you this long list of everything he was, everything he'd done. And you know what he said then? He said it's nothing more than barnyard fertilizer. It's not about your church. I love to say it this way. You can be Baptist and burned, Catholic and be condemned, Methodist and miss heaven, Presbyterian and perish, holiness and find your home in hell. It's not your character, it's not your conduct, it's not your church. It's not whether or not you've been washed in the water, but whether or not you've been washed in the blood of the Lamb. It's not whether or not your name is written on the rolls of the church, but whether or not your name is written in the Lamb's book. Why? Religion doesn't redeem. Religion condemns. Standing before the Lord in that great day will be a lot of religious people. You say, well, how do you know that? Because the Bible says so. He said, many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not done this? Have we not done that? Have we not done this in your name? Have we not done those things in your name? Have we not done many wonderful works in the name of God? And Jesus will say to them, depart from me, ye that work iniquity. I have never known you. Religious, but not redeemed. Now let me close. The latter part of the scripture we read this morning. Jesus goes back and just reinforces the lesson. He said, there's nothing from without a man that entering into him can defile him. Remember, they were talking about what? Eating with unwashed hands, eating with bowls and cups that have not been washed. But the things which come out of him, those are they that defile the man. If any man have ears, hear, let him hear. And when he was entered into the house of the people, his disciples asked him about the parable. He said to them, are you so without understanding also? Do you not perceive that whatsoever thing from without enters into the man cannot defile him? But it enters into his heart, because it does not enter his heart, but into his belly and goes out into the drought, purging all meat. And he said, that which cometh out of the man, that defiles the man. For from within, and he gets a long list of things, come from the heart. For the context, the Pharisees were condemning those who, for example, ate from unwashed plates. Laying aside, they said, the commandment of God, behold the traditions of men. Jesus wanted them to know that one's relationship with God, now hear me, as I get ready to close, is not the result of something external, but rather something internal. I am not defiled so much because of what I do. I am defiled more so because of who I am. Now, you often find yourself wondering why you struggle such with sin. Maybe you didn't consider the possibility. Are you ready? That you're not who you thought you were. It's not everything out there. It has everything to do with it here. Here's a simple truth. What you do, don't forget this, is the result of who you are. Or rather, who you are or are not. What you do is the result of who you are. What is inside will ultimately manifest itself on the outside. I suspect enough said. The question for all of us is religion or relationship. In this story, we find that religion does nothing for you. In the very end, it condemns you. The only thing that works is a relationship with God through personal faith in Jesus Christ. Father, in Jesus' name. Here come the Pharisees, Lord. They're all upset because your disciples were eating food from the marketplace with unwashed hands. They were drinking that which they had bought with unwashed cups. They were sitting around tables. They were sharing a meal together, and no one had taken the time to Clorox the table. And their religious leaders came around and said, well, your disciples can't be right with God because they're not doing what we say they ought to do. They're not being religious enough. And I thank you, Lord Jesus, that your response was, it has nothing to do with religion. A gentle reminder that it's not what we do that matters. It's what you have done that counts. Lord, I pray today that we're not going to trust our church membership. We're not going to trust our church baptism. We're not going to trust our church attendance. We're not going to trust whether or not we read the Bible every day. We're not going to trust whether we give an offering every Sunday. We're going to trust today one thing and one thing alone, faith in Jesus Christ. For if that's not the way that Jesus lied, because he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but by me. So Lord, I pray today that each one of us in this auditorium will have a relationship with you, trusting who you are and what you've done. Lord, there is a test offered us here, maybe a word of explanation, that what is on the inside, the real person, will ultimately be exposed on the outside. But Lord, if we're constantly, continuously, all the time doing those things which you call sin, and that's the characteristic of our lives, that's the conduct that orders our steps. And you would say it's not a problem with what's going on the outside. The problem is something is amiss on the inside. Lord, there needs to be, I believe with all my heart, a real salvation experience. I truly believe that when Jesus does that divine, dynamic work of redemption, He changes us on the inside. And that change begins to permeate through our spirit, our soul, and changes who we are on the outside. Lord, I don't know what you will do with this message today, but I pray that you have spoken to our hearts and you ministered with perfect will, revealed. In Jesus' name. Amen. I'm going to ask you to stand. The altars are open and available to you this morning.